Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday Sit Down. We are streaming here on Facebook and on YouTube, and so whichever platform you're joining us on, we're grateful that you've taken the time this morning to come and join us for the Sunday Sit Down. We do this every Sunday. We begin our worship service with about a 15 or 20-minute conversation that leads us into worship. We're really just testing all of our tech equipment. That's really what it comes down to. Like when Facebook falls apart, we can say, hey, everybody jump to YouTube. Now, we do this as an opportunity to get to know people in our congregation better and the people in the community better, and then also places that we extend beyond our congregation and our community as well, like we did last week with our friend from African University. So today, I'm really excited because we're entering a whole new worship series, and this worship series is called Earn, Save, Give. And yes, it's our annual stewardship campaign. And this year, we wanted to look at stewardship through the lens of a Wesleyan understanding of stewardship. And so Wesley had this quote of earn all you can, save all you can, so that you can give all you can. So that was the idea behind Earn, Save, Give. And so we thought, what a cool opportunity to not only highlight a couple people in our conversation, in our congregation here through these conversations, but also really dig into this a little bit deeper and help you know some of the people who are a part of our church, but then also help you get a little bit of a behind the scenes and a little bit of a deeper dive into this theme. So I'm joined this morning by Kyle. Hi, Kyle.
Hey, Phil.
How are you, man?
I am good. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. I'm so glad to have you in person too, right? Like,
yeah.
It's so great to see people at all.
There are people here.
There are actual people here. It's amazing. So Kyle, I'm going to let you kind of introduce yourself here in just a second, but Kyle's really involved in this church, and this was really a fun fact. Whenever I did some college campus ministry stuff at SMU, I met Kyle, how many years ago was that?
We shouldn't share.
It was many moons ago, we'll put it that way. Many, many moons ago, which is really fun that we've had this connection for a long time that Kyle reminded me of. I actually had forgotten, so I'm glad you reminded me. But yeah, so Kyle, you're really involved here at White Rock. You want to just share a little bit of what you do and your wife as well at White Rock as part of this community?
Sure, yeah. So I think the thing that probably most people know when they're here in worship, I'm usually up here on the stage in the folk band playing the big string bass.
Awesome.
So doing that.
Slap it a bass.
Love it. Sometimes. We'll see. Also, I'm the lay leader, so kind of part of the leadership team here and pretty involved in that, yeah. And certainly was the finance chair before that, so focused on the finances of the church. So, fantastic. So yeah, pretty involved. My wife, Corinne, she spends time with children. She was, I think, slated to be the Sunday school volunteer and
wah, wah.
Yeah.
Back when in-person Sunday school was a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll tap her again once we get back in person.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so people who didn't grow up Methodist or haven't been involved in Methodist church, what is the role of the lay leader?
Yeah, so, I think...
Remember, we only have a few minutes here, right?
Yeah, so I think it's a combination, and I'm sure I'm going to botch this, but for me, at least, the way I view it is sort of a liaison between the lay people, the congregation, right, and the staff and the pastor, senior pastor. Yep. So that's sort of my role, is kind of representing the interests of the congregation, being a soundboard for them. Yep. When I do get some emails,
Solid.
And kind of bringing those to the leadership team and being able to help make decisions for the church.
Awesome. So yeah, there's a couple clergy on staff here, and so while we do answer to the district and the district superintendent and the bishop, we also, like, our boss is pretty much Kyle's our boss, really. So that's what it comes down to, is that the leadership team is who we really answer to. So awesome. Okay, so this first week is earn. We're going to talk about what it means to earn and why Wesley valued this idea of earn. And so I thought in that realm, I would love to just kind of focus a little bit of time on vocation. You know, like you said, you were the head of finance before this, and clearly you have a degree in finance.
That is correct.
So you went to SMU.
Yes.
Cox School of Business.
Yep.
The whole thing.
That's the one.
So just share a little bit what took you down that path of wanting to study finance and go down that direction.
Yeah, sure. So it goes back to, now I'm going to give away my age. It goes back to when I was looking at college and trying to figure out, that's sort of the time you try to figure out, hey, what do I want to do? Yeah. And it was 2008. So there's a lot going on in the world of finance and economics in 2008.
Really good things happening in 2008.
There's a lot right there. And so kind of got drawn into understanding what all the moving pieces were, and that sort of led me to business and finance and SMU.
Cool.
So yeah, that's the short answer.
That's the short answer of it, okay.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting because I feel like there was this theme when I was in college, which was way before 2000, not way before, but a little bit before 2008. And people who were like in ministry, there was kind of this idea of either you went full-time into ministry or you found a job that would allow you to make money so that you could like support ministry kind of thing, which I realize there's way more than just that dichotomy in the world, right? But like, and I think that's still kind of a theme that plays in some other church mentalities, we'll put it that way.
Sure.
But I'm curious, right? Like, so you were involved in a campus ministry in college, and like, did you grow up in the church?
Yes, I did.
So this has been a part of your life all along, right?
Yeah.
So I would love to know then how like you view your work and like your vocation in relation to what it means to be a person who's in like the ministry of all saints, right? Like the ministry of all believers. What does that mean for your vocation, and how does that play a role?
Yeah. So I view it as an indirect relationship. I work for a big bank, giving money to large corporations in the form of loans. So I don't see a lot of ministry directly in that.
Sure.
Say what you want. But
safe space. This is a safe space.
But my role, my vocation, to me is certainly a means to an end, right? Okay. So for me, it does give me most weeks a decent amount of time to focus on other things. So I'm able to be involved in the church here because I'm not spending 80 hours a week at work, which is sometimes the case for a lot of the finance jobs that you see out there. So, it gives me time to be involved. It gives me the resources financially that I'd like to help contribute to the church and give in other ways. Yeah. I'd like to think that it gives me time to be a good husband too. So, that's sort of how I view it. A lot more indirect than just the vocation itself.
How do you see it play out even in the way that you interact with coworkers? And I know that's a weird question now because we're not interacting with coworkers as much, right? But how even like you have an opportunity to be in ministry with people that you work with and.
Yeah, I'd say somehow this year especially, there have been a number of occasions where I've found ways to have probably conversations that aren't necessarily permissible in the workplace. But
Sure.
When you're talking about things like religion, beliefs, society, even, that's come up a lot this year, especially. And so I've found a number of ways to use the relationships that I've built. I've been with the bank for almost 8 years now.
Wow.
So using those relationships, there has been a number of opportunities to really sit down and kind of talk about our different beliefs and how we'd like to create change in the world.
When I first started here, in one of the first conversations Mitchell and I had worship, it was about discipleship, and that's what I emphasized, right, is relationships, that to be able to even have conversations like that, you have to really build those relationships. So, so again, earning's really important, right, like for things like living and eating. And,
sure.
And just the simple things in life, right? You have a job that, like you said, has given you some freedom then to have space beyond just work like that, right? What really led you to get involved in the church? And obviously you've taken a really massive role, like you said. You started listing off all these things, but what led you down that, and kind of how did you even get to White Rock in general?
Sure. Which one to take first? Maybe how I got to
Start there and then figure.
So actually, we were at a different church, the church I grew up in, actually over in Arlington. And at one point, the associate pastor was someone that we grew to know and like, and him and his wife at the time, they were involved in that church. Mm-hmm. And eventually, Stephanie McKellar moved over here as our intern. And so she invited us. She knew we were looking for a new place to worship, one that was maybe a little more progressive, but also just generally more over this direction where we lived. Yeah. So we came here and we fell in love with it. Yeah. So that's how we met, I guess, how we met the church.
That's a fun connection because the Thursday download a week or two ago, we talked about my hair, which that was a thing, and I don't know why, but people were very curious. And Stephanie's actually the one who works on my hair usually, so that's a fun connection there.
Here
too.
You go. Yeah. So to answer the other question, sort of, why do I get involved or?
Yeah, like what? Because you do have this ability, this job that's a means to an end, like you said, right? That allows you then to have time and like what led you then to fill that time and use your gifts of time and your gifts of finance to then really get involved in the church? Not just in the finance department, but like again, folk band, right? Like there's a million things you can be doing with your time, right? Like why is it that you choose to do that with the church?
I think the primary reason is just the church is such a home. The community is great here at White Rock, which you don't necessarily find everywhere, but I think we're very fortunate, and I'm very fortunate to have felt that, and that certainly kind of led me to be involved and keeps me involved. I'd say to some extent, just a little bit of growing up and watching my parents who were pretty involved in my home church as well. Just really thrilled to be a part of it. As much as it's me giving my time and all of that, it's just as much a benefit for myself selfishly. So
I think that's great.
Yeah.
So we'll circle back to that kind of to end with, but before we get to the ending here, are there any just real, like, again, earn is our theme for this week. Are there any like practices or just things that you've come across in your 8 years working at a bank or just studying finance, that things that you would offer as like practical advice for people in the realm of earning, and like maybe it's even like how to pursue a vocation that can lead you to earn and not feel guilty about earning money, and like something in that realm. Like what's a little nugget here that you have practically speaking from the finance world?
That's a big one.
It's a broad question, but yeah.
I'll have to think about that.
Okay.
I'm just not.
Okay.
I can think of a lot. I mean, like,
Sure.
knowing what you're worth is certainly a thing. Understanding your benefits and how much of a package your compensation is, especially for full-time employees. That's one thing that I'm really into, is the personal finance side.
Sure.
I'd say, spend less than you earn, but that's getting into next week's save, so I don't want to take that away.
That's a big one though, right?
It is.
The amount of people that I knew in college who just didn't realize, like, oh, it's you have to pay this credit card off every, like there's just little things sometimes that people, if you don't grow up with that mentality, that's a big learning.
Yeah,
gap
absolutely.
there, right?
And teach your children finance, please. Please bring them into personal finance. I mean, that's
Sure.
one thing. Just pass on your knowledge while you have kids in your home and captive.
That's a great word. We'll have to get Vic on this, right? Vic, you got to help teach our children about money too, right?
Sure.
So, okay, so as we kind of wrap here, what's one thing or maybe a couple things that you mentioned this, like feeling lucky to be a part of this community, but like what's something you're really excited about that's coming up?
So I'd say one thing besides, eventually us all coming back and worshiping together.
Yes.
Certainly the discipleship. We've already had a couple seasons of the discipleship program. Mm-hmm. I'm excited for what we have this fall, specifically the Church and Society. Yeah. That's something that I'm looking forward to. So I'd say just overall the discipleship program, sort of kind of reprogramming the church and bringing in a lot of opportunities for people to get involved, learn more, and really connect their faith to the world. Yeah.
Well, so if you don't know, we sent out our flyer with our updated discipleship information for the fall. If you didn't get one, we have some more here at the church, and we can be happy to mail those to you. You can come by and pick one up. It's also at wrumc.org/discipleship. You can find it there as well. I'm really excited about Church and Society as well. I think it's going to be a really cool thing. If you don't know what Church and Society is, it's the General Board of Church and Society really is kind of the activism branch of the United Methodist Church, and we have these deal called the social principles that if you read through some of the social principles, there's some of them that we as a church believe that? Like, why aren't we doing more in that realm, right? Like, we're a very activist denomination as a whole if you really start to get down to some of this stuff. So I'll be reaching out to you soon to tap into your interest on that, because we're going to get that up and going here before too long. There's a lot going on with voting right now too, right? Like getting people real geared up for voting that follows in the realm of activism. So so I'm really thankful for your service here at the church and what you do as a lay leader, as well as the folk band, right? Like, just there's a lot of ways to serve in this church, and I love that you do more than just one of them. You're very engaged, and we really appreciate that. And I'm not just saying that because you're my boss, right?
Not your boss. No, fortunate to be here. Really, like I said, it's. I think I get more from it than I give. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well. Just so you all know, if you didn't know, your lay leaders here, you can reach out to him if you have anything that you don't feel comfortable bringing to the staff. He's available and would love to connect with you as well. So thanks for everybody for joining us this morning on the Sunday Sit Down. Again, we do this every Sunday, and we hope that you'll join us every Sunday at 10:25 to come be a part of this conversation. We'll see you next week. And again, we have a couple minutes before worship starts, so take that few minutes to run to the potty room if you need to potty, or go get your coffee warmed up, whatever you got to do to get ready for worship. We're grateful to move from conversation into a further opportunity of worship. So go in peace, my friends. Kyle, thank you.
Thank you.